All right, welcome back, everybody. It is the Awesemo.com Nhl Dfs strategy show. Big 7-gamer. Again, we had 7 games yesterday. Hopefully you had a good time, made a little bit of money. If not, Cliffy and I will help take you to the promised land this evening. What's up, Cliffy? How you doing?
Not too bad, man. Actually, getting super excited for baseball season. I think you and Terry were talking about that a little bit yesterday. Terry does some baseball shows here at Awesemo. He's going to be a really busy guy coming up here very, very shortly. And anyways, yeah, it's just like you said, it's a little bit weird that we still have NHL and NBA regular season going on and like a third of the season is still left. But it's nice that, if there's a night where you don't specifically want to just watch 6 hours of hockey, you can throw on some baseball games, you can throw on some basketball games because there's going to be playoff pushes and stuff like that. We still have NCAA March Madness going on for both men's and women's. It's a really, really good time to be a sports fan right now.
Yeah, very exciting. Reminds me of like in July and August when things started to come back. So there's going to be a ton going on. And obviously you can find us, like all of our free content, video content, live streams, any of that is right here on the Awesemo.com YouTube channel. So you should always be liking and subscribing. But we definitely need you to subscribe because that's the number one way we can help grow our channel. It just helps us out more than you guys know. If you've ever tried to combat the YouTube algorithm with a channel of your own, you know how hard it is to be showing up for some of these terms. So we need your subscriptions. We need you to like the videos. That is the best way you can help us out for free. And then, we're going to talk about starting 9, the promo code. We could just talk about it now since Cliffy brought up MLB. We didn't even plan that. We've got Awesemo plus MLB 9 days you get for just $9. It's $1 a day. Or, that's about 2 Starbucks coffees. So, just don't get your 2 Starbucks coffees that week. If you go every day, get your Awesemo plus MLB package, win some money. You get projections, ownership projections, the top stack tool. And then this just happened. I don't know if this has been announced, but whatever, I'll announce it. MLB, we're going to have a boom bust tool as well. So Alex is working on that. We've got it for NBA. MLB is a stacking sport. So we've got the top stacks tool, but then we've got like an individual boom bust tool as well that's coming out, which is going to be really, really cool if you're a hand builder or if you build with tournaments or MME builds for these large field tournaments. So look for that in the coming days. We had a MLB private video behind the paywall, a game plan video where Alex went through and did some really cool stuff, not only on Fantasy Cruncher and just like talking about the MLB tools on the site, but he also showed you a little bit how to like rank lineups in Excel. So it's about 30 minutes. I have like 2 minutes left of it, but it's been really interesting. It was some of the stuff I was doing on my own already. But he's obviously got much better ways of doing that. And so he builds you a little sheet in Excel and it's really, really cool. So if you're not signed up already, you got to sign up to view that video. Awesemo plus MLB for $9. Promo code is starting 9. I don't know if I mentioned that off the top. Starting 9. It is right on your screen, right under me. So yeah, man, it's going to be a magical season for MLB. I'm excited to play MLB. I'm not doing much MLB content, if any, this season, but I'll be focusing on NHL and then some stuff behind the scenes. But we've got amazing, amazing guys doing MLB content, including Terry. And then you guys know all the regular OGs, a lot of NBA guys going to be working double time. So make sure you show them some love. And streams will be starting on Thursday. We've got dual live before locks for both slates. So starting off hot for MLB. What are your initial thoughts on this NHL slate, since this is an NHL show after all, Cliffy?
Yeah, so maybe we should talk about NHL just for a few minutes anyway. I like this slate for a few reasons. One, there are a number of big lines on this slate. Boston 1, Tampa 2 technically now. Washington power play. There, Edmonton obviously, Chicago top line. Like there are only 7 games, but there's a ton of star power in those 7 games. And that tells me 2 things. One, like the ownership is going to be spread out, and I think it's going to be spread out fairly evenly. Like, I don't want to say that because I don't know for sure, but what I mean is that I'm not super like there are some nights where you're super concerned about an obvious filler stack. I don't think that's necessarily the case here because there are so many filler stacks everywhere. Like New Jersey has basically like three of them. The Rangers have at least one. Tampa has one. Columbus has one. Like there are a lot of filler stacks everywhere that you can put in with your super expensive stacks. So this is one of those slates where like I always watch for ownership. It's something I always keep in mind when I'm building my lineups, when I'm seeing which line is paired with which line. But it's not a slate where I'm super concerned about any single chalk line, let's say. Like I'm not really super concerned that there's going to be one line that just comes in at like 30%. And, you know, you need to have them because if they go off and you don't have them, they're sunk. Like it's not one of those slates to me. It's one of those slates. And I think I just checked our top stacks tool. I think like the top stacks kind of backs up what I'm saying here. We don't have a single line for 20% ownership. And on a 7-game slate with all these stars, usually you see somebody get ahead of the pack. And there's nothing like that here. So I like these kinds of slates because you're not forced to go in any particular direction. You can really do almost anything you want here.
Yeah, for sure. Alex just actually messaged me. You mentioned ownership. I was looking and some people mentioned Edmonton 1 was low owned. He says there was an issue with when he was just running ownership. So he's going to rerun it right now. That should be updated in about 5 or 10 minutes. I think it takes to run that. I don't actually know what goes all into that, but there is a secret sauce behind the scenes for Alex and Eddie and Tom, the guys that run the ownership projections. So just be on the lookout for that. I think, ownership is free today. So it's going to be, whoever wants to see it, you guys can use the ownership projections. We'll make sure they're as accurate as they can be. And Alex is rerunning those right now. So Nightbot will hook you up with the link. We've also got NBA ownership projections for free. And then the PGA Top Golfers tool as well, if you want to get a look at that. We're going to get into the games in just a minute, but we have to point out our sponsor, JockMarket. We've got a promo code for you, so listen to that in just a minute, but just want to tell you a little bit about JockMarket. They're turning fantasy sports into a stock exchange. If you trade stocks, if you like DFS, here you go. JockMarket's got everything you would like to do. You can buy and sell shares of players in real time with real money and guaranteed payouts for all your shares at the end of each night. They've got NBA and NHL, PGA, and you can make real money every hour, every minute, every second of any match or any game. Use the pregame IPO to pick up shares of your favorite players, then buy, sell, or hold during the game based on your own analysis, just like stocks. So, if you don't like a guy, you can always trade him in and move on to the next night. I know Tyler, have you been playing at all recently on JockMarket? A little bit? Yeah, he's giving me the, Tyler, I know you had a big Dylan Larkin night, right? Yeah, he's giving me the nod back there. So, you can buy and sell shares of players over on JockMarket. Use promo code Awesemo NHL20. That is a $20 deposit bonus on your first deposit only. So you make sure you take advantage. Not a lot of DFS sites are offering deposit bonuses these days. JockMarket is one of them that's doing that. So again, Awesemo NHL20. If you're an NHL fan, you're going to want to take advantage of that promo code. Someone wake me up when Jake is done with the ad reads. Yeah, I think that's enough ad reads for now. We'll be sprinkling them in throughout the show. As you guys know, we got to sell you a little bit. This is a free show. This is how we keep the lights on, as Chris Spagg says. So we're 10 minutes in. We've got 7 games, more than enough time to cover this and get out before the NBA show. New Jersey and Boston. We've got a 2.2 implied total for the Devils, 3.2 for the Bruins. Big news in this one is that Brad Marchand is expected to return. He said he had a false positive. Some of the lineup sites don't have him on just yet. Looks like he's going to play. He is 7,600. They are 25 or 24-5, I believe. Doing some quick mental math. I may be off there. Mackenzie Blackwood coming off a shutout against Boston on Sunday, and then he's going up against Yaroslav Halak. Can Blackwood do it again, or is this Boston one night for you, Cliffy?
I mean, first, I think Blackwood can absolutely do it again. He's definitely just one of my favorite goalies in the league. He's been really good for a couple years now behind, we'll call it a shaky New Jersey team. They've been really up and down for the last couple seasons, and he's been really their one constant. But before we get to the goalies, I want to talk about Boston specifically here because I was mentioning to you before the show what they looked like in the month of March. And what they looked like in the month of March was a pile of garbage. In March, Boston was 22nd by expected goal share, 30th in the league by expected goals for per 60 minutes. Only Detroit was worse, 29th by expected goals for per 60 minutes at 5-on-4. Like, those are just abysmal. Like, even New Jersey, better by expected goals share, better by expected goals for at 5-on-5, and better by expected goals for on the power play. Now, obviously, Boston isn't a bottom 5 team in hockey. Like, I want to get that straight. Like, let's get that out of the way. Teams go through lulls through their seasons, et cetera, et cetera. Like, Boston reminds me of those teams from Chicago like 5 and 6 years ago that just seem to know how to play well enough just to get to playoffs and to win. And then they just turn it on like towards the end of the season. That's just a little bit of conjecture on my part. It did seem like that's kind of something that's going on there. But to getting back to Boston, like I said, they've been pretty bad for over 4 weeks now. And it just turns me off of them when I see, you have to put up nearly half your salary just to get the top line in your stacks. And then if you're adding someone like McAvoy or Grizzly or whatever, like, forget about it. At that point, you're really down to just stacking a bunch of $2,500 players. So, like, that's basically the reason I'm out on the 2 reasons I'm out on Boston. One, like, the team as a whole has just been bad for a long time now. And 2, I just think they're way, way too expensive. And it's another thing where, like, I have to say this every time I'm saying I'm not playing Boston 1. I wouldn't say you're an idiot for playing Boston 1. I don't think they're, specifically a bad, in a nutshell, they're not a bad play. If this is the first game of the season, if this is the first game of the season, we have no track record of how any of these teams will do. Boston's probably the highest owned line on the entire slate, right? Like, it's just what has happened in the last 2.5 months has, changed our opinion a little bit. And that's what's getting me off Boston 1. Like, it's getting me off Boston altogether. I don't have a single Boston stack in any of my lineups here tonight. I'm looking more at the New Jersey side. Now, these 2 teams, as you mentioned, played a couple days ago. And what caught my eye here is Boston 3 went up a fair bit against the Brad Hughes Palmieri line. And, like, if the Brad Hughes Palmieri line, which has been pretty good, 2.4 expected goals for 56% expected goal share in their sample together, if those 3 are going up against Boston 3 or Boston 4, I really like that New Jersey line of Brad Hughes and Palmieri here tonight. They are a little bit more expensive, but we don't have much ownership on them. Even if that ownership comes up, I doubt they're more than anything like 5% or something like that. So I really like Brad Hughes Palmieri here tonight. I'm not going to get to a ton of them. I think I have them in 2 out of 20 in my lineup. So, around 10%. I'm completely fine with that. It's just, if you want to go to the Zajac line as a filler, Zajac, Sharangovich, and Wood, I think that's fine, especially where they're going to get some middle 6 matchups as well. Boston wasn't necessarily hard matching the top line last game. But, Zajac, Quoken, and Sharangovich are cheap enough that you can put in your Edmonton 1 stack, so I have no problem with them. But I'm focusing more on Brad Hughes Palmieri here. I think they can do real well against the Death from Boston. The Death from Boston has just been bad.
Yeah, I mean, definitely some options, I think, on the Devils side. It's not a huge slate, so I'm not looking to cross teams off, especially you mentioned just how bad Boston's actually been. Maybe if they continue to play like that, you might be getting a steal with the Hughes line. So I have no problem with that, assuming that they're going to be, in the 5% or less range. So we'll see where they come up in the most recent ownership projections. But last time we had them at about 2.5%. So definitely comfortable playing the Hughes line there in MME. And then with Boston 1, as it always is how expensive are they? How cheap are these other filler stacks? And how good do I feel about the lineup in total? Because, yeah, I would love to lock in a bunch of Boston 1. Maybe this is their get right game after Blackwood had an amazing start a couple nights ago. But like, I'm looking at some of these lineups that I'm generating with Boston 1, and it's hard for me to feel great about them because it's like, all right, mid-price, like punt defenseman, and then cheap, like secondary stack that everyone's going to be on, whether it's Montreal or Chicago. I think some people will play Detroit 1 with Boston 1. So when they're going to be popular, I'm usually coming in below the field when they're this expensive just because of the dupability of Boston 1. But I don't really have anything bad to add about them. They get Marchand back. Maybe that's a big help. That is a big help for their top line, obviously, but he's 7,600. You're not getting any sort of injury discount on Marchand there. You're paying peak price for these guys. I don't mind doing it in some of my lineups, but I don't think I'm going to be getting to the 18-20% ownership that we have them projected for right now. Did you talk about Boston too much? I mean, they're looking like one of the cheaper or the more popular secondary stacks. They are cheap, and I like Richie on power play 1. I like the entire line, but if they're going to be that popular, I don't know. Maybe I'll just be going elsewhere besides Boston and hope the scoring spread out if they can score this game.
Yeah, that's kind of the reason why I just kind of skipped over the Boston depth. And I was like, because I said I really don't have much interest in Boston here tonight. I think the top line is like, it's too expensive for me. And like you said, the second line, we have the top line as the most owned line. The second line is the second most owned line. Like, that's just like a hard pass for me. Like, I don't think like the way Boston's depth has been playing, like the top line, I should say, has still been good over the last month. 58.7% expected goal share. The depth has just been bad. So like at that ownership, I think it's an easy pass.
Yeah. So we'll see where they end up. If they come down to 7% or 6%, I'd be more comfortable playing some Boston too. Right now, Craig Smith is double that. He's 14% owned on DraftKings. So usually try to avoid these cheap chalk fillers on the bigger slates, and that's what I plan to do with Boston 2 right now. So I don't know. I feel like it's always the same conversation with Boston 1 where they're this highly priced for me. So I usually don't have a ton of interesting things to add, but I think it is interesting just how bad Boston's been as a team. Anything else you want to mention here?
No, not really. Just I'm wondering what Blackwood's ownership is going to end up being. We have him around 10% right now, but game log warriors and all that. Well, I'm just kind of interested whether he comes in a bit higher.
Yeah, I think so. He's not like the $6,800 goalie. He's $7,400. Some of the volume is priced in, so I don't think his ownership will be out of whack tonight. I think it's fine if you want to one-off him if you think he can do it again. Let's go to the Caps and the Rangers. 3 implied total for both sides. Vanacek, I saw Vanacek as the likely guy. I don't know if that's going to be the case. Shesterkin is confirmed for the Rangers. I think, was it me and you on this game? Was that last Thursday, I want to say, maybe last Friday? We were off of it a little bit. Maybe it was New York and Philadelphia. But I haven't been on the New York train too much, these Rangers. So I've missed out on a couple massive Zibanejad slate-breaking nights. And if he does it again tonight, I feel like I'm going to be a little bit disappointed. Are you higher on this game than I am?
Not really. And I think I understand why you're not super high on this game. You want to talk about teams in the month of March. We just talked about how bad Boston has been. Both the Rangers and the Caps have been top 5 by expected goals against per 60 minutes at 5-on-5 in the month of March. By actual goals against, Washington's in the top 10, just neck and neck with Colorado. The Rangers are a little bit further back. They're closer towards the middle of the pack, but that's more goaltending, and now they have Shesterkin back, right? So, this is a battle, and it feels weird to say that, knowing how bad defensively the Rangers were for the first month of the season. This is a battle of 2 of the better defensive teams in hockey over the last 5 weeks. The big thing here is Lars Eller being the game time decision. We saw last game how badly Washington really just split up their lines. Nicholas Backstrom was effectively on a pseudo third line. They basically had 1 top line and 2 third lines and a 4th line or something like that. They didn't have anything close to their normal line configurations. And with Lars Eller coming back, that would completely throw a wrench in everything, right? Backstrom was playing with Wilson and Sheary, and Vrana, Panic, and Oshie were effectively the third line. Vrana and Oshie were on the third line. If Eller's back, then they don't need Oshie as the center on the third line. And then I assume Eller goes Then Oshie goes to the top line. But then where does Sprong go? Does Tom Wilson stay on the second line, or does he go to the top? Like, that's the thing with Washington here, right? Is Lars Eller really throws a wrench into these plans. So, like, if I were to say anything right now, it'd just be, if I'm going to do anything with the Caps, it's power play stack some sort. You know, Kuznetsov, Ovechkin, Karlsson, Backstrom, Ovechkin, Karlsson, something like that. There's just nothing else you can do because you don't know what the lines are going to be. Like, I feel pretty confident saying that Kuznetsov and Ovechkin are going to stay together. Mm-hmm. But other than that, we don't know what the third wheel is, or we don't know what the other two lines are going to be. So that, on top of the Rangers actually being good defensively lately, is just getting me out like almost entirely on the Caps. I do like the Rangers' second line here, Strome and Panarin. They've been playing really well of late. Strome I think he had a 3 or 4 point game last week. And they should get some of that Washington second line. And it's, you know, assuming the second line is something like Backstrom, Vrana, and Wilson, like that type of line doesn't really worry me at all defensively. Even a top line of like Ovechkin, Kuznetsov, and Oshie wouldn't worry me that much defensively at all either. But again, we just don't know what the lines are going to be. So I think Rangers 2 is going to be in a better matchup, and Kako is there, nice and cheap, 3,000 if you want to round out the full line combo. So I'm getting to quite a bit of Rangers 2. I don't even mind Rangers 3 as a nice filler stack here, like a really super cheap filler. If you want to get up to, your Edmonton power play stacks or whatever, they've been decent in a very small sample. Hedl, Gauthier, I had Hedl, Lafreniere, and Gauthier on that line. They've been decent in a small sample. If Eller's not back, that third line could still be a mess. So I don't mind Rangers 3, but for me, it's about Rangers 2. And I'm going to try to get up to Adam Fox where I can, but I'm fine with dropping down to Trouba to save some cash.
Yeah, I keep fading Fox. I keep fading Zibanejad, and I just keep getting crushed on these Rangers slates. So another pretty good total. I thought maybe we would see below 3 implied totals for these teams, and maybe they've moved a little bit since I entered them in this morning. But 2 good totals. I'm having trouble really liking anything here, and you're getting ownership on both sides. So Rangers 1 getting some ownership. Double digits for Zibanejad and Kreider. Kuznetsov, Ovechkin are going to carry some ownership. I like the idea of the power play stack that you mentioned. So if you wanted to go Kuznetsov, Ovi, Oshie, and Karlsson, it's expensive, but I think I'm more interested in something like that. We don't know what the lines are going to be until 6:30 Eastern time, and like just based on what the Caps have done in game too. I know it's been without Eller, so maybe they get back to playing these lines more consistently. But like Oshie's jumped around, he's been playing center, he's been playing wing on the Kuznetsov line. Like correlation, you want correlation on a big slate like this, and so I'm not super confident that the Caps stick together because it's been working when they haven't been sticking together. So you mentioned Kuznetsov, Ovi. I think those two are safe to play together. Or power play stacking it, but it's getting owned at a place where I'm not super comfortable because the Rangers have been pretty good defensively, which is weird to talk about for the first time in a few years. They've been a team that I don't just like lock teams in, lock the opposing team against them. So I like the call on Rangers 2. Once again, Strome, Panarin, and Kako, reasonably priced, reasonably owned right now. If you wanted to add in Fox, that's fine with me. So I'm hoping this one stays quiet or we see some success out of Rangers 2, but I'm already pre-tilting this game because I can feel it burying me very early. I'm going to be underexposed on a lot of pieces here, it looks like. And Alex just said that ownership has been updated. Actually, in fact, he said updated. Sadly, Connor McDavid will not be less than 1%. LOL. So there you go. Those ownership projections are updated. Those are free if you guys want to check those out and use those for your own lineups today if you are not an Awesemo NHL member. Anything else that we need to talk about here? Trouba, Kandra, Miller, cheap defenseman. You interested in either of those two guys?
Yeah, well, I don't mind Trouba. Like Miller, I think is fine, but he's not playing consistent 21, 22 minutes like he was when Trouba was out. So it's like, I'd rather play Trouba if I have the money. Like it's not one of those cases where I'd look to save money. I'd rather play Trouba if I can get there. If I can't, then Miller's fine.
Greg says, let's make sure to set aside 10 to 15 minutes for discussion on Brett Connolly on the top line tonight. Oh, we will get there. Don't worry. Cliffy will have his time, his Brett Connolly time. Liquid Demon says, Jake is playing too much Vancouver. And I was thinking, like, man, is Vancouver even on this slate? I'm ill prepared for this one, but they're not there. If I had just X'd out Vancouver for the last, 3 weeks, I'd probably have more money in my DK account. So they've been on a slate. I've been playing them to no help of my actual account. So I think we are good. I'm just trying to catch up on some of these comments. I don't like playing. Okay, that's about Florida. So we'll get there in just a minute. Let's move on to Columbus and Tampa Bay. 2.1 implied total for the Jackets. 3.4 for the Lightning. Merzlikins and probably McElhinney for the Lightning. I saw he wasn't confirmed, but it looks like he's probably going to get a start here. Cirelli with Killorn and Stamkos. Point with Palat and Tyler Johnson. Third line sticks together for the Lightning. Do we even need to mention anything on the Blue Jackets? They switched up their lines again. It's a tiny total for them. 2.1 implied goals. If there was a team I was going to cross off, it would probably be the Jackets for a number of reasons, not just because of the total. But what do you think about the Tampa Lines? And then is there anything you like on the Blue Jacket side?
So the Tampa Lines I do like. And I mentioned in chat, I think it's a Tampa 3 night, and I'm going to start with Tampa 3 here. And the reason I say it's a Tampa 3 night, over the last few games, Tampa has kind of adjusted who they use in a shutdown role. It had often been Braden Point used in that role. Sometimes it had been Anthony Cirelli. The last few games, they've been using the third line of Gord, Coleman, and Goodrow up against the opposing top competition. Now, the question is which line that's going to be for Columbus here tonight. Is it going to be the Line 8 Domi line, or is it going to be the Atkinson Bjorkstrand line? Quite frankly, I don't think it really matters. I think both are good matchups for Tampa 3. I think the only bad matchup the Blue Jackets can offer is a Teixeira, Foligno, Jenner line. And if Tampa 3 keeps going with this line matching that they've been using lately, the Tampa third line we'll see little time against them. So I really like Gord, Coleman, Goodrow. As a filler line here tonight, when I was looking through our top stacks earlier, they were sitting at around 4 or 5%. That actually went down in that recent run that you just brought up. They're down around 1 to 2%. 1 to 2% going up against this Columbus, top line or top 6 or whatever. I think it's just a really, really good spot for this line here. Like you said with the Columbus side, there's just not a lot to like. They break up their lines constantly. The only line that stays together is Foligno, Teixeira, Jenner, and that's not really a line that I want to stack anyway. You could probably bet on Roslovic, Atkinson staying together, but everybody else is free game. They're bringing 4 guys into the lineup tonight: Liam Foudy, Zach Dalpe, Dean Kukin, and Mikko Lehtinen. So even though they did, skate this morning, we could see changes at warm-up. So, I don't really want to, I don't want to use the big Tampa guns here for one reason, and that's Columbus takes no penalties, least penalized team in hockey. So I think you want to take advantage of 5-on-5 matchups here, and I think easily the best 5-on-5 matchup is Tampa 3. Tampa 3 has just been unreal good. 2.4 expected goals for, 1.4 expected goals against per 60 minutes. I'm trying to do the quick math in my head. That's what, a 65% expected goal shares, give or take.
Unreal.
That's just outstanding. So I'm really in on that Tampa 3 tonight. I'm going to one-off some of their other guys. I'll probably one-off Tyler Johnson or one-off Alex Killorn or something like that, but I'm not stacking the Tampa top 6 here tonight. I think it makes the most sense to take advantage of the best 5-on-5 matchup. And the best 5-on-5 matchup I see here is Tampa 3. On the Columbus side, I'm probably done stacking Columbus for the season. I say that joking kind of, but kind of not really either. their power play sucks. They don't generate power play opportunities. They switch up their lines all the time. Patrick Laine's been regularly playing under 15 minutes a game. He's averaging under 2 shots a game over his last 10 or something like that. The only guy I really have interest in is Oliver Bjorkstrand. He's pretty consistently 17 plus minutes a night. I think there's only one game in his last 12 or something like that where he's been under 17. So Bjorkstrand 5,300. Don't mind him as a one-off. Like if you want a one-off like Werenski or something like that, I think it's fine. But like that's like Columbus is just a one-off bot for me for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think you make all fair points. Like I'm not looking to hammer Columbus anytime soon, and certainly not in this matchup. I will say the line I have the most exposure of, and this is 4 lineups out of 150 on Columbus. So 2.7% is the Columbus. We'll call it the third line, Jenner, Teixeira, and Foligno. If that's going to be a thing, I don't know. You're looking at me like those lines aren't even correct, but they're probably not even. It's just what the lineup sites go with right now. So who knows? I mean, you never really know with Columbus. I wouldn't be redoing your lineups if they come out with something different at lock. Your time is probably better spent elsewhere. Tampa 3, I'm definitely on if they're going to be low owned. It looks like they are going to be maybe one of the higher owned third lines, but still low owned in the context of the entire slate. And then, I thought it was going to be higher on Tampa 1 and Tampa 2. I'm going to get to my 6 to 7% of both of those lines probably, but there's other spots that I'm prioritizing. And so like you're still getting a pretty expensive point and Palat over 6K each. Stamkos, his price is down to 6,700 and his line is pretty cheap, but that's going to make them a little bit more popular than I would like. So we haven't quite got to my priorities of the night, but Tampa 1 and 2, good plays, but I think I'm going to be most overweight on Tampa 3. And then I like Hedman at 6,800, probably my favorite defenseman tonight. So we haven't gotten to Yossi yet. Maybe I'll change my mind by the time we get there. But right now he's my highest owned guy. Any interest in anything else?
Just maybe some Merzlikins, maybe.
Okay. Volume?
Yeah, but that's well, I don't even think it's volume. I think it's just the fact that he'll have no ownership.
Okay. Yeah, you can always play goalie at no ownership, especially an underdog. Right? He's probably going to see the 30 plus shots, maybe get to the bonus. Reasonable play.
They're just really just real quick. I just want to say there just really aren't a ton of really good cheap goalies tonight, right? Yeah. Like we'll get to one, and I think in the next game we're going to talk about. But I hate that goalie, so I don't want to play him. And then it's Wedgwood in New Jersey, and then other than that, you're probably playing, Blackwood in New Jersey. Other than that, you're paying over 7,500 for your goalie. So there really aren't a lot of cheap goalie spots here tonight.
Yeah, it's not great. Let's get to the Brett Connolly portion of the show. 2.1 implied total for the Wings, 3.4 for the Panthers. Calvin Pickard and Sergei Bobrovsky are your expected goalies. We've got potentially fully correlated power play 1, Panthers 1 line. Kind of weird names. Wenberg, our boy. Connolly, your boy. And then Huberdeau, a guy that we know and love. They're really cheap, and it is a big total for the Panthers. So top line looks like they're going to be popular. I would think the second line is going to be somewhat popular as a filler as well. Achari with Carter Verhaeghe and Anthony Duclair. But what's your priority here? Are you with the Florida 1 chalk?
Yeah, I am. And I don't like it bothers me that they're so high owned. It really does. We have them as the second most owned line of the night. And that's really concerning for me because I do like that line. Like in a nutshell, I like that line, right? Like I think Wenberg, we trash Wenberg a lot on the show here, but he's a decent playmaker, right? Like he's not a bad hockey player. He's just a bad DFS option. That's all it is. And like, I think Connolly, like I've talked about him before. Like he's probably one of the, 30 or 40 best 5-on-5 goal scorers in hockey. So like, I'm fine with that line. Like, I think it's nice in a nutshell, but man, like we have them coming in at 23% ownership, which like that feels super high to me. The reason I really want to stick with them is that, Detroit, okay, like their defensive here, like Detroit's defensive numbers on the surface look good. Like I shouldn't say good. They look fine, passable, like middle of the pack. But the problem is that they don't generate any offense. Like I said in the section on Boston, they're last in the league, expected goals for per 60 over the last month. If you're middle of the pack defensively and trash offensively, you're constantly defending. That's the problem here, right? Is like Detroit they're just going to be in their own zone the entire time. Now, no Barkov, no Ekblad, no Hornfist. That all scares me, but I think that honestly just kind of brings Florida like close. It just brings them to Detroit's level. It doesn't make Detroit I don't think it just makes Detroit necessarily a much better option here. Like I think if you'd probably play Detroit, whether Barkov is in the lineup or not. Ekblad, I think that might make a difference, but like I don't think Barkov for me would make a difference on whether or not I play Detroit here tonight. It just makes a difference on how much Florida I want. Another reason I want to play Florida is they're going to get heavy minutes, right? Like I think in their last game, the entire top line, like Alex Wenberg played like 21 minutes last game. That's just something like this is a guy that was bought out last year. Like this, like this is how thin they're getting at center that he has to play all those minutes. So it's just I'm still going to get to my Floridas because I think there are enough ways. Throw on Nhl Dfs, maybe use Gustav Forsling instead of Yandel as the defenseman. I think there are ways you can get a bit different if you're worried about them coming in at 20% ownership. And there's no matchups I'm worried about. If Detroit still had their full top line of Fabry, Mantha, Larkin together, I'd say, yeah, that could be a matchup to go into. But Detroit broke them up, so there's no matchup on the Detroit side that I'm worried about. Larkin and Zadina just haven't really been super good this year together. They've really needed Anthony Mantha on that line to do anything. Like Zadina is just having a bad year, man. His individual expected goals per 60 are worse than Luke Glendening's. And Luke Glendening is a guy we make fun of for never generating offense. Like Zadina is having a bad year. So I'm out on Detroit 1. Detroit 2, I do have a little bit of interest in here. I'm not super concerned. Like with Ekblad gone, Uyghur on the top pair, I'm not concerned about matchups. So I don't mind, Nemesnikov, Mantha, two-mans or something like that. I'm going to be having a little bit of Detroit here, Detroit 2 here tonight, but apparently I'm with the chalk. I'm going to be fairly heavy on Florida top line here on this one.
Yeah, interested to see how the ownership in the final runs shake out. So these will be updated. I think it's going to be a little bit more split than what we're showing right now. So I think maybe like the top line comes in, they're fully correlated power play 1 and cheap. So like they're going to be popular as a filler. If any, like people are just going to end up there, whether using projections or hand building, and they see Detroit as the opposition. So I think we're on the right track. That they might be 15% and the second line might be like 9%. Something I could see something along those lines. And so I like both Florida lines. Not really excited to play anything on the Detroit side. Maybe some Larkin one-offs or Larkin Zadina two-mans if you wanted to go there. That's fine. But this is all about Florida for me, even without Barkov. And I think I'm going to be more overweight on line 2 for the Panthers. Chari, Carter Verhaeghe, and Duclair. They get some of that secondary power play time. And if there's going to be a big discrepancy in ownership between the top two lines. So that gets closer. Maybe I'll move some more exposure to Florida 1. But I think both very solid plays here. Yandel moves up to the top power play. He's your guy if you're going with the Wenberg line. Maybe some Nudavara if you're going. Is he power play 2? 2,500? Nudavara?
Yeah, but I don't think it would really matter anyway. That top power play is going to get every single minute.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. Anything else we need to mention before we get to the next game?
Yeah, I want to talk about Calvin Pickard just real quick. Okay. He's the goalie for Detroit. He's the cheapest goalie on the slate. People are going to play him. I have 1 or 2 Pickards in my lineups, but I really need people to know just how bad he is. Distant last by high danger save percentage over the last 3 years, and his goal save above expected also near the bottom of the league in a small sample, and it's a cumulative stat, which means you need a lot of minutes to really build up a bad number. And he's built up a really bad number in a very small amount of minutes. Like Calvin Pickard, all the numbers say he's probably the worst goalie in the NHL. So that's, I'm playing him because he's 6,900, and there are some lineups I need a 6,900 goalie. Just be aware that if you're playing him, you're probably playing the worst goalie in hockey.
All right. I've probably played worse.
I don't know. I don't know if you've played worse.
That bad? All right. I don't think I'm playing much Pickard, if any. So that's fine if you guys want to take a stab at $6,900 goalie. Sometimes it works out. A lot of times it doesn't. Welcome to Team Awesemo Moneymaker. And I saw Brian Claremont as well. Thank you guys for joining. If you guys want to join, unlock some cool emojis. We've got a bunch more coming. Actually, we've got a list of them that are being made. So we'll have some host emojis as well. If you want to take part in that, you can click the join icon and be a part of our YouTube channel as well. Get some additional stuff. We've got one thing. Let's see, 185 of you in here. If you guys could all hit the like button, that helps us out a little bit. Subscriptions to the channel help us out immensely. And then if you haven't yet, promo code starting9, make sure you take advantage of this ridiculous offer. Starting 9, you're going to get projections, ownership, and top stacks. And then if you missed it earlier, Alex is coming out with an MLB boom bust tool. So if you play NBA, you're going to really like the tools that we've got, translating some of the NBA tools into MLB. So that'll help you target some one-offs. And then you're going to get access as well to premium Slack for the first 9 days of the MLB season. And then we hope you stick around afterwards. But if you don't want to, you can cancel anytime. So you get 9 days of Awesemo plus MLB for just $9 using that promo code starting9, which is right below me on your screen. Edmonton, Montreal, 2.8 implied total for the Oilers, 3.3 for Montreal. I've got Koskinen and Carey Price in for the Canadiens. Edmonton played last night. They're the only team on the back-to-back. Looks like their ownership has obviously come up. We had an error earlier, so refresh if you haven't just yet. But we've got them at, reasonable ownership, not quite at, they're lumped in there with Boston 1 and let's see, Dallas we haven't gotten to, but Montreal, very popular. Tatar line is cheap, and they're getting some power play time. And then you've got the second line as well. So are you targeting Montreal? This has been a long layoff for them. What do you like here?
I'm glad you mentioned the long layoff because that's something I kind of wanted to talk about here. Montreal has been off for 10 days. And that's pretty important to note here because the NHL started doing bye weeks, I want to say 5 years ago. And what it was is that effectively teams during the season, 6 teams at a time or 8 teams at a time or whatever it would be, would take off, I forget if it was 5 days or 7 days or something like that. And they would just be, go vacation, go home, spend time with your families, et cetera, et cetera. And basically they found that when teams came off bye weeks, they just got crushed. Now, please remember that, we're talking about small samples, 5 years, you're talking 30, maybe 20 games a year, teams coming off a bye. You're talking a sample, maybe 100 games or something like that. So it's still small. But teams coming off bye weeks tend to get crushed. And I'm treating Montreal as if they're coming off a bye week because you kind of have to, right? They didn't practice up until Saturday or Sunday, I think. And they haven't played a game in 10 days. This is going to be a rusty team here tonight. I get Edmonton is playing back-to-back. They had to travel last night. It's 3 and 4 nights, all that good stuff. But I'm really worried about a Montreal team just having absolutely nothing in the tank to start this game. I think it's a very, very possible reality that we see Montreal just completely suck here tonight because they're still rusty with no practice and 10 days off. That's just the fact of the matter. It's hard to take 10 days off during a professional sports season and then just get right back to it. Just ask any athlete. That on top of the ownership is what's keeping me away from Montreal 1. The Montreal 1 ownership is just out of control. We have them over 26%, which I completely believe because they're 12,600 on DraftKings, which means you can fit them in with Boston 1. You can game stack with Edmonton power play. You can fit them in with Washington power play. You can put them in with everybody, and they're a very well-known top line that is cheap. And people are going to think that they're in a good spot with Edmonton on the back-to-back, and they kind of are. But I digress.
But they're gonna get Edmonton 1, right? Like it's not that good of a 5. It's a bad 5-on-5 spot, or at least not a good one.
Yeah, it's not a good one either. So that's another thing that's just keeping me away from Montreal 1. And then Montreal 2, I mentioned in Slack earlier today, was just bad, like bad in the month of March. Talking 42.5% expected goal share. That's abysmal. Like that's non-NHL caliber hockey. And then you have the Shea Weber Joel Edmondson pairing, who's come in at 46.8% expected goal share since what's his name got hurt, since Ben Sherratt got hurt. So like you have your shutdown pair at 46.8%. You have your top line coming off 10 days of no rest or 10 days of rest. And your second line at 42.5% expected goal share this month, also coming 10 days off rest. Like I have no Montreal tonight. I have none, not one single stack from Montreal in my 20 lineups. If they go off here tonight, you know what? I'll say you guys can have my money. Congratulations. You beat me tonight. I am just not in on the Habs. I think there are just too many reasons not to play them tonight. Ownership, the rest, just how bad that second line has been. I think there are just too many reasons not to play the Habs tonight. I'm just completely out. I am so far in on Edmonton 1. They're by far my highest exposed line of the night. Give me as much McDavid and Draisaitl as I can handle.
I'm as big of a Montreal 1 guy as anybody, I think. But man, this ownership, I can't really get behind it in terms of like being close to the field. I'm at like 7% Montreal 1. If they're going to be at 20, even like if they're going to be at like 17, I think I'd be well under the field then. Like, I don't even think I'd get to double digits on them. So you're not being sneaky playing Montreal 1. You're not being sneaky playing Montreal 2. Montreal 2 probably going to get the better matchup. I'd feel more comfortable getting to where the field's at on them, but I'm still not even doing that. So yeah, I'm all over Edmonton 1 as well. Played last night. I don't really worry about Connor McDavid showing up or Draisaitl or Puljujarvi fully correlated. Edmonton 1 right now is my highest owned stack as well, even with the updated ownership projections. So yeah, it's an Edmonton 1 spot. It is a low total for them. Montreal's a tough 5-on-5 team, but I don't really care when you've got this trio that Edmonton has and playing a ton of minutes as well. Tyson Barrie, 6K, Darnell Nurse, 6,400. You guys know the deal with those guys. You play Tyson Barrie with your Edmonton 1 stacks. You can play Nurse either with Edmonton 1 or without. With would be a little bit of a differentiator. We got to keep it moving, but anything else on this last game or this Edmonton game?
No, that's it for me.
All right, Carolina and Chicago, 3.2 implied total for the Hurricanes, 2.5 for the Blackhawks. Nedeljkovic against Lankinen and Trocheck expected to be back. He skated this morning with Svechnikov and Jesper Fast. Aho with Teravainen and Netchus. So that looks like it's going to stick. Netchus has been playing unreal, scoring a bunch. They're pretty cheap. And then you've got Suter with DeBrincat and Kane, Camp with Kubalik and Hagel. Actually, I thought I saw Kirby Doc with those two guys. Anyways, do you like Chicago in this spot with this low total? And then what does Trocheck coming back do for you with these Carolina lines?
Yeah, Doc did play the third period with Kubalik in the last game, so he could end up back there again here tonight. And he's been playing over 20 minutes a night. Just keep in mind that Doc isn't necessarily a good fantasy player. He just plays a ton of minutes. I'm putting in my lineups as if Trocheck is playing tonight. Like, I feel pretty confident that he's going to play. I think he's had 2 full practices with the team plus morning skate today. Like, maybe something crops up, but I think you should be pretty good to go for Trocheck in. I'm playing that Trocheck Svechnikov duo. The reason for that is that Aho might not get anybody on the top line with them on the power play. Natchez might get booted off, because remember before Trocheck got hurt, the top power play was Stahl, Aho, Trocheck, and Svechnikov. Natchez wasn't there. He only got on the power play because Trocheck and Teravainen got hurt. So I think it'd be stupid to kick Natchez off the top power play unit, but considering what they were doing as recently as 2 weeks ago, I don't see any reason to think otherwise. So that's what's driving me away from Aho and towards Trocheck and Svechnikov. But I am doing like some Aho, Trocheck, Svechnikov stacks. Like I have no problem throwing in Aho with that line and making it more kind of like a power play stack. Like I have there's no concerns for line matching here on the Chicago side. I know we talk about line matching quite a bit, but that top line, 2.4 expected goals against per 60 minutes. The third line, small sample, but they're at 3 expected goals against per 60 minutes. There's just nothing to worry about here. On the Chicago side, I'm pretty much out. I have someone off Kubalik, sorry. That's pretty much it. I just don't like these line combinations. I don't like this matchup. I don't like that Trocheck is back. Hurricanes are back to 3 good lines now. Just pass for me.
Hurricanes really tough 5-on-5 spot for a Blackhawks team that isn't very good at 5-on-5. So top line's been fine, but I think you're probably going to need some help on the power play. Now Carolina does take a good amount of penalties. They have the 7th most time shorthanded so far. So on a per game basis, maybe they take an extra penalty or 2. You could get there with DeBrincat and Kane. They're at low ownership. But yeah, I think I'll take some stabs at the second line, whatever that ends up being for the Hawks. You might not know. You might get surprised with Doc in there. He's 2,700 compared to Camp, who's 2,500. So just be careful if you're stacking Chicago even strength lines. You've also seen Doc up there with Kane sometimes. You saw Kane and DeBrincat were not together at pregame skate on Sunday. So I'm a little bit hesitant to be playing a ton of Chicago here. What about the defensemen before we move it on to our last game?
I'm basically just I'm trying to correlate with Dougie where I can, where I'm not. I'm actually going down to Jacob Slavin. I know he hasn't had a great year, but I really like that price. Anytime he gets under 4K, I play Slavin.
Fair enough. I like maybe a good block shot spot for Calvin DeHaan, 3,400, but I'm seeing he's on the third pairing. So maybe go up to Connor Murphy at 4,100 instead. All right, last game of the night. Let's go to the Stars and the Preds. 2.8 implied total for the Stars, 2.6 for the Predators. Hudobin, probably Rene for the Preds. Dallas won. I don't know how they're this popular. I thought I was going to be sneaky playing a bunch of Dallas won tonight. Do you like anything in this low total game? I think this is the lowest total game of the entire slate, maybe tied with Boston and New Jersey, but pretty even on both sides. Is there anything you love here?
Yeah, I really do like that the Dallas top line. Like, I know that they're coming in at we have them, I think, at 12, 13%. That's honestly fine for me. I have no problem at playing a 12% top line on a 7-game slate. That just feels like kind of appropriate. You know what I mean? So that's not concerning me. What's really getting me on them is Nashville is probably going to send out the third line of Haula, Cousins, Grimaldi against Dallas's top line of Hintz, Pavelski, Robertson. And that Nashville third line has 1.6 expected goals for per 60 minutes, 2.1 expected goals against. That works out to about a 45% expected goal share. It is not a good third line. This is not Minnesota 3. This is not Dallas 3. This is just some random third line that they're trying to use in matchups. So I think it's a great matchup spot for Dallas 1. If you're going to play Dallas 1 and you want to correlate a defenseman, I would probably use Klingberg. Heiskanen is definitely still one of the guys that I use on his own. I don't like Heiskanen on the top PP unit because of the way he plays, but I think Heiskanen makes a lot of sense as a one-off. But if I'm playing anybody in stacks, in a Dallas stack, it'd be Klingberg. On the Nashville side, if you wanted, I don't mind that top line of Johansson, Arvidsson, and Tolvanen. They have correlation. They should get a bit of that second line matchup and avoid the third line, but Dallas is pretty good defensively. I don't have anything personally from Nashville here tonight that I really want to play.
Yeah. Just want to reiterate Dallas 1. I'm still there with the ownership. It's not a deal breaker for me. If you want to go to Dallas 2, that's fine. I'm not crazy about Nashville, but you're getting low ownership on that Johansson line. So that's fine for MME. For me, do you have a hat trick pick on tonight's slate to give the audience here?
Yeah, I just mentioned him, Joe Pavelski.
Pavelski? All right, I'll take I'll piggyback off your Carolina 2 take. I like Svechnikov for Carolina. So that's going to do it for today's show. Make sure you tune into the NBA show that's coming on in just 5 minutes right on this channel. Just go to the homepage, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification so you know that we'll go live, not just for NHL, but all our other shows. Check out Jock Market. You can see the sponsor in the top right. Use promo code Awesemo NHL20 for a $20 deposit bonus on your first deposit. And then use promo code Starting9 if you're looking to subscribe for MLB. That's 9 days of Awesemo plus MLB for $9. Thank you, everybody. Cliffy and Josh will be breaking it down for the next few days, the next week or so. So enjoy a lot of Cliffy and Josh time, and I'll catch you back in a week.